This video lesson is on the federal bureaucracy, the government at work. What is a bureaucracy? Bureaucracies are based on a pyramid structure with a chain of command running from top to bottom. Each bureaucrat or person who works for the organization has certain defined duties and responsibilities. The bureaucracy does its work according to a set of established regulations and procedures. What are the major elements of the federal bureaucracy? The federal bureaucracy is all of the agencies, people, and procedures through which the federal government operates. The President is the chief administrator of the federal government. In order to enact and enforce policy, Congress and the President have created an administration, the government's many administrators and agencies. The chief organizational feature of the federal bureaucracy is its division into areas of specialization. Another feature of the bureaucracy is red tape. Red tape involves a series of actions or complicated tasks that seem unnecessary, but that a government or organization requires you to do in order to get or do something. How are groups within the federal bureaucracy named? The name game. The name department is reserved for agencies of the cabinet rank. Outside of department, there is little standardization of names throughout the agencies. Common titles include agency, administration, commission, corporation, and authority. What is the difference between a staff agency and a line agency? Staff agencies serve in a support capacity. They aid the chief executive and other administrators by offering advice and other assistance in the management of the organization. Line agencies perform tasks for which the organization exists. Congress and the President give the line agencies goals to accomplish, and staff agencies help the line agencies accomplish them. What is the executive office of the President? The executive office of the President, the EOP, is an umbrella agency of separate agencies. The EOP serves as the President's right arm, staffed by most of the President's closest advisors and assistants. The EOP was established by Congress in 1939. What are the duties of the White House office and the National Security Council? The White House office is comprised of the President's key personal and political staff. Staff positions in the White House office include Chief of Staff, Assistants to the President, Press Secretary, the Counsel to the President, and the President's Physician. The National Security Council, the NSC, acts to advise the President on all domestic, foreign, and military matters that relate to the nation's security. Members include the Vice President and the Secretaries of State and Defense. The President's closest advisors work in the West Wing of the White House, near the Oval Office. What are the additional agencies in the executive office of the President that assist the President? The Office of Management and Budget's major task is the preparation of the federal budget, which the President must submit to Congress. The Office of National Drug Control Policy, established in 1989, this agency's existence dramatizes the nation's concern over drugs. The Council of Economic Advisers consists of 3 of the country's leading economists and acts as the president's major source of information and advice on the nation's economy. What are the origins of the executive departments and how did they develop? The executive departments, often called the cabinet departments, are the traditional units of federal administration. Each department is headed by a secretary, except for the Department of Justice, whose work is directed by the Attorney General. Today, the executive departments vary a great deal in terms of visibility, size, and importance. How are members of the cabinet chosen? The cabinet is an informal advisory body brought together by the president to serve his needs. By tradition, the heads of the executive departments form the cabinet. The president appoints the head of each of the executive departments, which are then subject to Senate approval. What role does the cabinet play in the president's decisions? Cabinet members serve as both head of their respective departments and as advisors to the president. Why does the government create independent agencies? The independent agencies are created by Congress and located outside the executive departments. Why independent agencies? Independent agencies have been formed for numerous reasons, including being assigned a task or function that does not fit well within the existing departmental structure, protecting the agency's purposes from the influence of both partisan and pressure politics, and being created outside the departmental structure by accident. What are the characteristics of independent executive agencies and independent regulatory commissions? The independent executive agencies include most of the independent agencies. The most important difference between the independent executive agencies and the 15 executive departments is that they simply do not have cabinet status. Independent regulatory commissions. They stand out among the independent agencies because they are largely beyond the reach of presidential direction and control. The term length of members and staggering of member appointments keep these commissions from falling under control of one party. The regulatory commissions are quasi-legislative and quasi-judicial, meaning that Congress has given them certain legislative-like and judicial-like powers. How are government corporations structured? Government corporations are also within the executive branch and subject to the president's direction and control. Government corporations were established by Congress to carry out certain business-like activities. There are now over 50 government corporations, including the U.S. Postal Service, Amtrak, and the Tennessee Valley Authority. Here is a list of selected executive agencies, selected regulatory commissions, and selected government corporations. Components of the federal bureaucracy include cabinet departments, independent executive agencies, independent regulatory commissions, and government corporations. What are iron triangles? According to the iron triangle theory, agencies and departments usually keep close contacts with interest group lobbyists who want to influence their actions. Interest groups may provide valuable statistics to government agencies, and they are motivated to have their point of view heard. Both lobbyists and bureaucrats value contact with congressional subcommittees that shape the laws that govern their interests. Working together, these three groups set most government policies. Here is an example of an iron triangle. The Bureaucracy, Tobacco Division of the Department of Agriculture. Congressional subcommittees include subcommittees of the House and Senate Agricultural Committees, and interest groups. Tobacco lobby, including both farmers and manufacturers. How did the civil service develop? The civil service is that group of public employees who perform the administrative work of government, excluding the armed forces. The use of patronage, the practice of giving government jobs to supporters and friends, was in use throughout most of the 19th century. The Pendleton Act, also known as the Civil Service Act of 1883, laid the foundation of the present federal civil service system and set merit as the basis for hiring in most civil service positions. What are the characteristics of the current civil service? The Office of Personnel Management is the central clearinghouse in the federal recruiting, examining, and hiring process. The Merit System Protection Board enforces the merit principle in the federal bureaucracy. Congress sets the pay and other job conditions for everyone who works for the federal government except for postal employees. Profile of civil service employees. Gender, 44% women, 56% men. Ethnic background, non-Hispanic Caucasian 71.3%, African American 16.7%, Hispanic 6.4%, Asian Pacific Islander 4.5%, Native American 2.1%. Education, no bachelor degree 60%, bachelor degree or higher 40%, and job category, white collar 87%, blue collar 13%. What restrictions are placed on the political activity of members of the civil service? The Hatch Act limits certain political activities of most executive branch employees. For example, the law prohibits employees from engaging in political activity while on duty or in the federal workplace. It also prohibits them from soliciting or receiving political contributions. Political activities. The Federal Employees Political Activities Act of 1993 relaxes many of the restrictions of the Hatch Act. It still forbids federal workers from running in partisan elections, engaging in party work on government property or while on the job, collecting political contributions from subordinates or the general public, or using a government position to influence an election.